And the week after.
And your book tour week.
And the book tour week. I know. It's been great.
I was told to bring some energy, but you guys are just like off the charts.
It comes right out of this thing. It's called a very strong straight coffee.
And it is called No More Alarm Clocks.
Congratulations on the book. Get some sleep this weekend.
Yeah, I will.
Hey, look who's here. Ed Henry.
Nice to see you
Great
both.
to have you here.
How are you?
Thank you. Good to have you.
Great.
Let's start with politics.
Okay, some top Republicans are continuing to pour in and out of Trump Tower as the president-elect is looking to shape that cabinet.
And this morning, one of the top White House jobs said to be offered to retired General Michael Flynn.
Yeah, but do we know that for sure? Let's talk to Fox News chief Washington correspondent James Rosen. He's the chief Washington correspondent, so if anybody's going to know, it would be the chief Washington correspondent.
And let me be chief with you right now, Steve, Ainsley, and Ed. Yes, we know this. Multiple sources have now confirmed that President-elect Trump has offered the position of White House National Security Advisor to retired Army Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. No word on whether he has accepted. In a book he published this year, The Field of Fight, Flynn wrote that he was fired from DIA, where he never once received an audience with President Obama because the general's assessments of the threat from ISIS and radical Islam did not align with the more optimistic view the White House wished to present. Flynn has generated some controversy with his appearances on the Kremlin-controlled TV network RT, as well as in his reported business dealings in Turkey. However, the job of National Security Advisor does not require Senate confirmation. Sources have also confirmed that the president-elect will meet with 2012 Republican nominee Mitt Romney at Trump National Golf Course in Bedminster, New Jersey this weekend. The two exchanged some sharp words during the primaries, but Mr. Trump is now said to be evaluating Governor Romney for the job of Secretary of State.
Mitt Romney's a job creator. He's an American success story who knows a lot about the world. Many things that Mitt Romney talked about in his 2012 election with respect to the world stage have come true. And I anticipate, you know, a meeting of the minds and of two equal partners in terms of those who love their country and want to make sure we have a peaceful and democratic transition into the next administration. And we know that Governor Romney can add to that conversation.
Now, if you miss those huge Trump rallies, and if you're among the 30 states that Donald Trump won in last week's election, you may soon receive a visit from the president-elect. The man who served as advance director for the Trump campaign told reporters yesterday that Mr. Trump is planning a victory tour, that's the words that were used, of states that he won and battleground states that he flipped, meaning states that voted for President Obama 4 years ago, but cast the majority of their ballots for the Trump-Pence ticket this time around. So if you missed all that action and you want in on some of those huge Trump rallies, you may have another opportunity soon. Back to you guys in New York.
There you go. All right, James, you know, since they are going to have the victory tour, even though it's in the future, it hasn't happened yet. We think it's probably going to sound something like this.
We're going to win with trade. We're going to win with health. We're going to win at so many levels. We're going to win, win, win. You're going to get so tired of winning. You're going to say, Mr. President, please, we don't want to win anymore. It's too much. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry. We're going to keep winning because we're going to make America great again. I love you. Thank you.
The gods in the background, James, are just rolling.
Yeah, I personally, for one, am willing to experiment with the overindulgence in winning.
Sure.
But that was one of my favorite Trumpisms during the campaign. We're going to win so big, you're going to get tired of winning. I love that.
Oh, that's good.
That was very good. You know, next time we play that, let's do a drinking game. Every time he says winning, let's have
It's
a
6
sip of
o'clock.
coffee.
Brutal.
It's 6 o'clock. It's not always about
3 o'clock in L.A. Come on.
It's Friday.
All right,
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, so it is very interesting that, as James just detailed, Mitt Romney, who has said some very unflattering things about Mr. Trump, will be going out to Mr. Trump's fancy.
He called him a phony and a fraud in March in that speech, saying, you know, never Trump. And by the way, President-elect Trump called him a choker, or I guess Marco Rubio would say a chocker.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
But he said he choked over the 2012 election, but maybe now he'll bring him in.
You know what, though? This happens on the campaign trail. Look what he said about Lion Ted, and now they're friends. You know, I think it's just...
He might be the Attorney General.
I know, that's my point. I think that they're able just to bury it and move
President
on.
Obama did this to some extent, you remember, in 2008, 2009 with a team of rivals. And everyone was stunned back then. I mean, we take it now as obvious that, oh, of course Hillary Clinton came in the cabinet. When that was first announced, that was a stunner that he was bringing her in.
Right.
Somebody, they were bitter rivals at that time, and maybe still are a little bit.
Romney might be good, though.
Yeah.
Romney is very wealthy, multi-millionaire, hundreds of millions of dollars. The economy and jobs, #1 issue when we were talking to voters when we looked at the polls. Plus, he's very measured.
Sure, absolutely. Plus, look at all the things that Mitt Romney has been right about over the last 4 years, and it would be a great sign of unity. Anyway, they're going to get together out at Bedminster, New Jersey this weekend. What's going to happen? Stay tuned. In the meantime, for the most part, there's so much speculation going on about what they're doing behind closed doors. You read in the mainstream media, it's chaotic. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. You hear all of that stuff.
They're behind.
The transition
so
team
slow.
is so slow.
Exactly. And yesterday we showed you that graphic that showed you that during, for instance, the Reagan administration, it took 6 weeks before Ronald Reagan made one of his
How did his first term work out?
I think
it was okay.
Reagan's
pretty good.
Look
Here's
at
the chart.
There's a graphic right there,
Right,
and
so
I know
explain this chart.
it's a
I was
little hard to
looking
see.
at. Yeah, tell us what this is.
But see, you got the weeks on the left, and then Nixon did all of his appointments in the sixth
Week
week,
six.
and then
Okay.
Carter 5 weeks
and Reagan
in.
didn't start until week 6. In week 7, he had 4 more big cabinet appointments. But you're right that it took a while. And also, you want to focus on quality, not quantity.
So the only
obviously.
one that made a decision in week 1 was Bush 41.
That's right.
Isn't this considered week 1 for Donald Trump?
Well,
I mean, he's doing better than all the others.
Look who rushed to Donald Trump's defense. That's what's interesting.
That's interesting.
David Axelrod tweeting, quote, "We hadn't made any major appointments at this point in 2008. I don't remember being criticized for it." I mean, that's like a zing coming from,
From the guy
President
who got
Obama's
President
top
Obama
advisor
elected.
saying, "Hey, media, calm down. Give Donald Trump a chance." I've never heard David Axelrod say that.
Oh, I know. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about, is Donald Trump's impact already making America great again? Remember this. We played the victory tour soundbite. Remember how many times we heard Donald Trump talking about Ford Motor Company not moving to Mexico? Remember this?
I'm going to bring jobs back from China. I'm going to bring jobs back from Mexico and from Japan, where they're all, every country throughout the world. Now Vietnam, that's the new one. They are taking our jobs. They're taking our wealth. We have to stop our jobs from being stolen from us. We have to stop our companies from leaving the United States and with it firing all of their people.
A Trump administration will stop the flight of American jobs. If Ford or another company announces they want to move their jobs to Mexico or to another country, then I will pick up the phone, and if I have to, I'll do it personally, even though some people would say it's not presidential.
You look at all of the places that I just left. You go to Pennsylvania, you go to Ohio, you go to Florida, you go to any of them. You go upstate New York. Our jobs have fled to Mexico and other places. We're bringing our jobs back.
Pretty interesting.
So that's some of the stuff he said out on the campaign trail. And you know what happened yesterday? Mr. Ford, Bill Ford.
Yeah, CEO of Ford Motor Company.
Actually called Donald Trump and said this, according to a tweet by Donald Trump. "I worked hard with Bill Ford to keep the Lincoln plant in Kentucky. I owed it to the great state of Kentucky for their confidence in me. He will be keeping the Lincoln plant in Kentucky. No Mexico."
Wow. Interesting as well, because there are rumblings that Apple may now be searching for a way to make the iPhone right here in America instead of China.
Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be a lot of jobs, obviously.
Yeah, right.
And also remember, Apple was all in on Hillary Clinton, and they were a little nervous about a Donald Trump victory.
Well,
they may be reacting.
And I
as
was watching some other networks, and they were trying to spin the story about. I like to flip around. I like to see other options too. But I was flipping around, and they were talking about this story about Ford Motor Company and Lincoln moving to Mexico, and they're saying it wouldn't. No one would lose their jobs in Kentucky. So why is it a big deal if Lincoln moved to Mexico? The big deal is, what if they went down to Mexico? What if the Lincoln part went down to Mexico? They gave jobs to people in Mexico that could be jobs for Americans here. And what if it went really well and they were saving a lot of money down there, and then they decided to move the whole plant?
Sure.
So it's great that they've decided to stay here.
Plus, it's the bad PR. Keep in mind, as soon as they were to move down there, then, Donald Trump could say, look, Ford moved down there. That's not helping us.
Right.
Then when it's time for you to buy a car, you're thinking, all right, do I go with the Ford or the Chevy?
In terms of the David Axelrod tweet, we've been hearing that we later today might be hearing some announcements from Team Trump about various appointments. So the whole idea that they're behind, we may see a flurry of activity today.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so stand by, and we've got Sean Spicer coming up with us at 6:30 Eastern Time. In the meantime, it's time for some news.
Okay, we're going to hand it over to Heather.
Good morning.
Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Ed, great to see you back here. Welcome back to New York. Good morning to all of you. We start out overseas, and with a Fox News alert right now, a man set himself on fire inside an Australian bank. Police now investigating this as a possible case of terrorism. 6 people, including the suspect, were taken to a nearby hospital with severe burns. Officials say that suspect had an accelerant on him, and it wasn't clear if he intended to actually set himself on fire or not. 21 others, including some children, were rushed to the hospital with breathing problems. We'll keep an eye on this situation. Back here at home, road rage horror, a woman fearing for her life as she makes a desperate call for help to 911. Listen to this.
Scottsdale 911, what is the address of your emergency? I don't know where I'm at. Guys hitting into the back with me, trying to kill me on the road.
Well, that Arizona woman trapped inside her car, helpless for about a half an hour. A drunk driver repeatedly rams into the back of her car. Joe Moses, we are told, pulled up to her, flashing his lights and making obscene gestures. Moses was later caught and arrested for assault and also drunk driving. President Obama finally has a message for post-election rioters. March on. Listen to this. Well, just an example of some of the things that have been going on lately. The president is now under mounting pressure to respond to all that. He's remained tight-lipped until his press conference in Berlin. Here it is.
One of the great things about our democracy is it expresses itself in all sorts of ways. And that includes people protesting. I wouldn't advise them to be silent.
I wouldn't advise them to be silent, he said, as we watch this. Well, Mr. Obama now heads to Peru for the APEC summit. And do you remember the man who used a pickaxe and a sledgehammer to smash President-elect Donald Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Well, he has now been charged with felony vandalism. James Otis, seen here in this video from Deadline.com, was arrested shortly after he destroyed Mr. Trump's star last month. The 52-year-old said he did it to protest what he said was Trump's treatment of women. He now faces up to 3 years in jail. And those are your headlines. We've got a busy morning, gang, and a packed show.
All right, let's start right now.
Let's get going. All right.
All right, coming up on this Friday, Donald Trump about to announce more cabinet picks, perhaps. So will Rudy Giuliani make the list? The man inside the room with Trump, Sean Spicer, is going to join us in just a couple of minutes.
Making the show a little spicy. And reforming Obamacare is on Trump's must-do list. So should 26-year-olds still get free health care? Dr. Mark Siegel is here with the path forward. Come on in, Dr. Siegel.
Place Obamacare once in office. So how would he do that? Here to weigh in is Fox News medical aid team's Dr. Mark Siegel. Doctor, we know that he has said that out on the trail, but I saw something Lamar Alexander, the senator from the great state of Tennessee, said yesterday. It could take years to actually unwind this thing.
Well, that's the replace part. I think the repeal part, with the budget reconciliation process, the way it was passed, has to happen fairly early, Steve, because if it doesn't, the tentacles of Obamacare are growing. And let's remember, we're still only talking about 10 million people on the exchanges. Sounds like a lot, but 170 million people get their insurance through their employer, and that's been jeopardized by Obamacare. So let's unravel it now, and then of course, replacing it's going to take a while.
Of course, supporters of the president's plan, they say, look, there's some things in that Obamacare that are very popular. For instance, keeping your kids on till they're 26, get on their feet and whatnot. And
which is popular.
It's very popular, and I've had kids in college up to 25, and it's like, they better be on our plan because they can't afford it through Obamacare. And then the other one is pre-existing conditions.
Well, you know, pre-existing conditions is also popular, but the question is who's paying for that? And I've said, you know, if you're a 30-year-old and you're in good health and you're thin and you exercise, should your premium really be as high as a 70-year-old who smokes, who drinks, who eats too much, who lays on the couch and then needs a knee replacement because they're too healthy?
Right.
Too heavy, rather? No, but that's what Obamacare does. And our younger people have been smart enough to take the penalty rather than pay that high level of premium. So if we're going to replace it, we could keep pre-existing conditions. but put those patients in high-risk pools where they pay higher premiums, and that's where government subsidies should be, to pay for people with pre-existing conditions that you can't otherwise afford it.
Okay.
But not have a 30-year-old pay for it.
Sure. You know, the other thing is for people who are on Obamacare, and I know the president throws around that 20 million figure, that's way too high. That also includes the number of people who are now on state mandated Medicaid.
Which is expanding and exploding, by the way. A report today out of Foundation for Government Accountability, a report this week said, and you weren't surprised to hear this, Steve, guess what? The Medicaid expansion, everyone's saying, wow, I'll take that.
Right.
I'll take that. Over 110% more than expected. Over 11 million people in 24 states alone have said, I'll take that expansion. Right. Why should I work?
Sure.
I'll take the Medicaid.
But the problem is, while it's great for them, then the state has got to pick up the tab.
Absolutely.
What I was getting to was the fact that ultimately, people would like to see the premiums go down and the deductible go down.
Well, for premiums to go down, there's a lot of ways that President-elect Trump has a way to get that to happen. One is portability. In other words, like you can own your automobile insurance, you could own your health insurance, and if you leave your job or if you leave the state, you could take it with you. The other is health savings accounts where you pay up front. Tax deductible money. It can roll over to your other family members. It can roll over to the next generation. It builds year to year. Health savings accounts are going to be key for choice and helping you decide what you actually need.
All right. Well, let's stand by because we've heard he might try to do it on day one.
That would be exciting.
It would be. All right. Dr. Mark Siegel, thank you very much for making a house call. Meanwhile, coming up on this Friday, Donald Trump about to announce more cabinet picks, we hear. So will Rudy Giuliani make that list? The man inside the room with Trump over the last couple of weeks, Sean Spicer, is going to join us live in about 10 minutes. And he
is now officially challenging Nancy Pelosi for Democratic leadership in the House. In a letter that he sent to the caucus, he writes this: "What we are doing right now is not working. We owe it to our constituencies to listen and bring a new voice into leadership." And moments ago, the search for the missing son of a Democratic congressman coming to an end. 21-year-old Carl Conyers, he was found safe overnight. The details of his disappearance are still unclear. The son of Michigan Representative John Conyers vanished from his Houston apartment earlier this week. He is now being questioned by police.
So what can one of the most successful college basketball coaches in history teach the Trump transition team about building a winning team? Joining me now, author of the new book, Success is the Only Option, The Art of Coaching Extreme Talent, Kentucky men's basketball coach, John Calipari. Great to see you, Coach.
Good to see you, Ed.
I wonder, as I think about you coaching extreme talent, and you do it so well every year, you have these one-and-done players everyone talks about. Not all of them, but a lot of them end up just spending 1 year at the University of Kentucky and then moving on. So you have a crunched amount of time to get the most out of these guys. And it reminds me of Donald Trump putting together an entire government right now in less than 70 days. He has to figure out, how do you pull this talent together? What's your advice to him?
Well, part of this is I try to surround myself, my own staff, with people who are strong in areas that I'm weak. Mm-hmm. And then I let them go. You lead that way. I think the other thing is, for me, coaching these players, at some point, they've got to be empowered.
Absolutely.
The best thing I can do is say, okay, let me lead, let me show you, and then I've got to empower you and let you go.
And I also think about the president-elect, because he's got John Kasich and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and others who are very talented and could be part of this team, but might be frustrated by how the primaries played out. So what would your advice to the president-elect be about pulling people together who might not want to be together?
I don't know if I'm in a position to give our president-elect.
Just in general.
But here, what I would say is go across party lines, bring people in that give you different ideas, do the rivals, here we come, we're all together. At the end of the day, President-elect Trump is the moral compass and is going to make the final decision.
But I understand. I haven't heard this yet, but you do a pretty mean impersonation of Donald Trump.
No, let me see it.
All right, let's listen.
Let's see it. I'm just teasing. No, false, not true. No. I can do this one too if you want me to. I can do whatever you want.
What do you think?
I did the dance too. I did both.
It looked like one of the debates with Hillary.
You know, it's funny. You know, I'm watching every debate, and I was really involved.
You would call
in
me
this
throughout
stuff,
the
and
debate.
I would say, Ed, what in the world? What's going on here? But you know, this thing, there's an anger out there. And at this point is bringing people together.
Speaking of all in this together, your son, Brad Calipari, is on the team now.
He's playing. I'm putting him in.
He was in there. You
And he
played at the
scored.
world-famous Madison Square Garden here in New York. And I caught a moment. I don't know if you know that I saw this, but everyone was looking at the ball on the other side, and he was there, and I heard you go, hey! And you looked at him and you gave him a little thumbs up. What does it mean to coach your own son like that?
It's you know, my children have sacrificed my time because I've coached. To have him with me, to have him text me at night, I'm in the gym, I'm working out, to build his own self-esteem and confidence, and me to be there to kind of steer him, because he's like every other child, our own they do stupid things and say, hey man, you're not doing that. But I am so proud of him and so happy to be coaching him. He scored 2 points in the last game. He got fouled in this game. He should have been shooting free throws.
Defending the Sun till the end. The La Familia. John Calipari, Success is the Only Option. Great book. We appreciate you coming on Fox and Friends. And we appreciate Coach coming in. Ainsley was just noting it's tough on the family when a coach is a big-time coach.
They're gone recruiting so many days out of the year, so they sacrifice a lot.
Quote, became president by pandering to a huge racist and sexist base, and the school plans to keep it. We've got the outrage ahead. And could Mitt Romney really have a place in the Trump cabinet or Trump White House?
Right now, for the RNC, when it comes to
the
man is Sean Spicer, and he's working with the transition team. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So what about Lieutenant General Michael Flynn?
Well, he's an outstanding individual, very well qualified, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency.
He's been offered the job.
Well, look, nothing's official until you hear it come out of Donald Trump's mouth. That's how this administration works. He is the ultimate decider. But he has surrounded himself with people like General Mike Flynn, with people like Congressman Mike Pompeo from Kansas, and General Kellogg and General Mrs. Alqua. There's a ton of these folks, top flight, top quality people, not just in the military, but in all of national security, whether people in the intelligence community and foreign affairs. He had Henry Kissinger in yesterday, someone he's known for a long time. He has continued to surround himself with the best and the brightest in this country to make sure that on day one, after he takes his hand off that Bible, that this country moves forward to enact his agenda.
Sean, what about Mitt Romney? They are going to meet this weekend. That's been confirmed. Secretary of State, possibly?
I think the first thing they're going to do is have a conversation. And what I think that meeting shows, as well as the meeting with Ted Cruz and others, is that Donald Trump is not looking at someone's political, affiliation, whether they support him or not. He wants the best, the brightest, the most qualified people to not only fill his administration, but to give him advice on the policies and opinions they have on how to enact an agenda successfully.
But, we had Ted Cruz at the convention. Even at the convention, he would not endorse Donald Trump, was getting booed. Is this a matter of, people like Cruz realizing there's a new sheriff in town?
Well, there is a new sheriff in town. That's the reality. But I think more than what they realize, it's what Donald Trump realizes. And it's his attitude and his vision to say, if you want to get on board to enact an agenda that will move this country forward and have real change, I'll take you. And I don't care where you were prior to this, whether you supported me or not. If you're the best person, if you've got a great idea, I want to hear it. I want you part of the team.
So he's not holding a grudge.
Look, his actions speak louder than his words, right? He is bringing people from national security, foreign policy, economic policy. He laid out his views in the campaign: immigration, job creation, national security. And the people he's surrounding himself are the best and the brightest to make those policies
What's going on with Rudy Giuliani? Because everyone expected he'd be one of the early ones. That he has been by Donald Trump's side from the beginning, was criticized for being so strong for him, and there's a lot of speculation, as you know, that maybe he has confirmation problems, some of his ties financially and whatnot. Is that true?
Well, first, he continues to be a great supporter of Donald Trump and provide him with advice and ideas about how to enact that agenda. He's one of those top people. There's no announcement yet on any additional posts, so
it's hard to tell.
It's hard to,
Come on, Sean, we haven't had one in 3 minutes. We want one now.
He's clearly a respected part of that team. He's been unbelievably successful, not only in business, but obviously as a mayor, as someone who helped rebuild New York City after 9/11. And so Mr. Trump continues to rely on his counsel.
Now, something that is new to us, at least, with the transition team is apparently you have buckets of landing teams. You have 3 landing teams. There's national security, the economy, and domestic policy.
That's right.
The first one is national security. So that would make sense why Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, his name came out first. Explain how the
right. So
teams
there are 3 landing teams, if you will. Today, the National Security Landing Team, which is Department of State, Department of Defense, the National Security Committee, and the Department of Justice launch. What that means is individuals designated by President-elect Trump will go meet with people designated by the White House in those respective departments and agencies, and they will begin to talk about the transition that will occur in January, what jobs need to be filled, how they get filled, what forms, everything down to the minutia to the big agenda type of things. And they will work on behalf of the Trump team to make sure that they have a successful transition. And then, as you mentioned, on Monday, we start going to economics and then domestic policy and all the agencies. And one by one, those names come up on the website this morning. You'll start seeing, each of them is a list of individuals who are, again, very, very qualified, high-level people who are experts in those fields that will help make a successful transition.
So we can expect personnel announcements that dovetail with that action on Monday and Wednesday, I would.
Well, these landing teams are not hires. They are liaisons. They are people that Mr. Trump and Governor Pence feel as though will help them transition in these key departments and agencies. They are not hires. They are just people working to make sure there's a smooth transition. But in the coming days and weeks, I'm sure we'll continue to peter out.
On your website, the transition website, you were looking for 4,000 people. It's a lot of positions to fill. We're hearing that you're getting applications every day.
Yesterday cleared 50,000. And again, you look at the people who are coming into Trump Tower. Fred Smith, and I mean, there are these high-quality business leaders, military leaders, foreign policy.
He was just delivering a FedEx, though.
No, I don't think he does that anymore. But then you look at the number of people who are putting their resume in to fill some of these 4,000-plus jobs that will be part of the Trump administration. Same type of high-quality, high-caliber people that share that vision that Donald Trump.
He said he was going to create jobs. Now he's creating 4,000, right?
The big question, how many resumes for press secretary at the White House?
I'm sure there's a bunch. There's a ton.
Do you know of any that have come in?
Well, they got yours.
Oh, really? I'm talking about Spicer. We've known each other about 25 years.
You want the job?
Look, I will tell you this. If Donald Trump asked me to do anything, I would do it. It has been an honor to be a small part of this process. But he and Reince Priebus have been 2 amazing people to me. I would do anything that they asked. Nothing's been asked.
All right. Sean Spicer, we thank you very much for dropping by.
Thanks for coming in today.
Telling us about the landing teams. That's a cool idea.
It is.
Is that Trump's idea?
I wish I could say it was. I don't know that. But they're launching.
They are launching today. All right. Thank you, sir.
Well, Heather has some more headlines for us.
Sean, great to have you here. No, it's great to have you here. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. A couple news headlines to bring you right now. This video may be hard to watch, but I want to tell you, everyone is okay. Watch this as a car rams through a crowd of people outside a bar in Tampa. A brawl was going on at the time. That driver pinning a person between the car and that building, but somehow they survived, walking away with just minor injuries. That driver is still on the loose. 2 people involved in that incident are now under arrest. Welcome to the jungle, a major animal house bust to tell you about. A woman keeping a big collection of cats and ferocious felines inside her home in Nevada. Officials finding more than a dozen exotic animals, including, can you imagine having this in your house? A lion, a tiger. They were locked inside her bedrooms. The homeowner is now under investigation for animal cruelty. And do you remember this? A grown man with facial hair and tattoos playing in a youth football game with feeling the perfect time to call in sick to work.
The key to faking out the parents is the clammy hands.
Surveying the abandoned projects say thousands, if not millions, have been spent and wasted on security because of its proximity to the embassy. And the Secret Service, meanwhile, could be putting our national security at risk. Judicial Watch revealing agents have lost nearly 12,000 sensitive items. How sensitive? Guns, cell phones with maybe sensitive information, badges, and even cars have been stolen and lost over the past 15 years. Not Steve Ducey's car, thankfully. Ainsley?
All right, thank you, Ed. A San Francisco teachers union is coming under fire this morning for offering an anti-Trump lesson plan for teachers in that district. That lesson labeling President-elect Donald Trump a sexist and a racist man who, quote, became president by pandering to a huge racist and sexist base. It was created by a teacher who says that she hopes to empower and support students. But our next guest is calling it inappropriate propaganda. Joining us now is Harmeet Dillon. She is the RNC committee woman from California and the former vice chair of the California Republican Party. Harmeet, thank you so much for being with us.
Happy to be here this morning, Ainsley.
Well, thank you so much. So this is a union that represents teachers in that district and represents 57,000 students in that district. And they're posting this on their website, that this is a new lesson plan for teachers to follow to teach kids about Donald Trump being a racist and a sexist. What's your reaction?
Well, I think it's very inappropriate, as I've mentioned. And it's not just that Donald Trump is a racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, bad person, but that the people who voted for him are also all of those bad things, racist and sexist. And it's a very one-sided vision, a very dark vision, and a very negative and unbalanced vision of what happened in this election. And I think it's going to have a chilling effect on students who might have been conservative themselves or might have parents who voted for Donald Trump. There are a few of us Republicans here in San Francisco.
Right. What happened to teaching math and science? I mean, what should parents do that live in this district?
Well, so this is public school, and parents, we pay pretty high taxes here, property taxes and other taxes here in San Francisco. If I were a parent of a high school where this lesson plan was being taught, I would demand that that not be the lesson for the election as a basis for commentary and thought and how they should be thinking, obviously very much against Donald Trump, or an essay about white rage, which is another piece of that lesson plan, telling students that white legislators are racist and that the whole society around them is racist. I think it's just, really, it's almost child abuse to present students with this dark, one-sided view of what the whole world around them is, which it isn't like that.
Harmy, what if the roles were reversed? What if a red state came out and said, we need a lesson plan on how to deal with Hillary Clinton, who has been proven to be a liar and has not followed the rules? What would the reaction be?
Well, I think that's a great question. To me, as a taxpayer, I would have the same reaction, which is that it is not the place of our public schools to be indoctrinating students one way or the other. It is the place of the schools to make sure that they're fully educated and equipped with all the tools they need to succeed after they graduate. And putting all this baggage on them that they're about to go into this horrible racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic world out there who voted for the new president, I think is really, counterproductive to equipping them to succeed in America.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your perspective. Have a good weekend.
My pleasure.
Coming up, you heard his message about anti-Trump protesters causing trouble on the streets.
Curled up in a fetal position, rocking back and forth, sucking their thumb, humming Jesus Loves Me. They have no idea what the process is all about or what they're doing or why they're mad.
Well, now you're sounding off about them, too. We are reading your comments coming up. And you don't have to wait until Black Friday.
Got great deals on tools right now.
Fantastic. Okay.
The knife set, great for Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving's coming up. This is from Hamilton Beach. It's electric. What's great is it's stainless steel, serrated for carving bread or your turkey. And this is on sale right now at JCPenney. You'll need that for Thanksgiving for sure.
Steve sometimes gets a little sloppy around the holidays and spills wine.
Red wine on the white carpet.
Don't we all? Well, this is amazing. It's from OxyClean. It's the SWAT. So if someone spills red wine or coffee, all you do is you pre-treat it with this spray, add a little water to this, and then you're going to watch it eliminate the stains. And it's going to pump the stains out. It doesn't require any batteries or plugs. It is a lifesaver.
That's awesome. And this is only $29.99.
$29.99.
Did we say how much the knife set was?
Yes, also $29.99.
Okay. Next up, some makeup.
Makeup Forever, my
Glad
favorite
you brought that
brand.
up, Steve.
This is going to be great for the holidays. You guys, you're going to get little travel-sized versions of HD microfinish powder, which we all use in TV, primer to make your skin nice and smooth, and then your own mascara.
It was.
Right. But the White House has sort of moved to Manhattan.
They
temporarily, maybe.
And you can really feel for the Secret Service and the local police
Fifth Avenue's a mess.
They've got to protect a 70-story high-rise from everything.
And that 70-story high-rise is right next to Tiffany. And you have all these tourists that come and they want to breeze through Tiffany and see what it's like. Next to the Apple Store, it's such an area where tourists go across the street from the Plaza Hotel. And then there's Trump Tower.
Because that's the #1 tourist attraction right now.
I know. And there's so many barricades that, like, 6-lane road is turned into 2 lanes.
And it's a tourist attraction because inside that skyscraper is Donald Trump. And that's our top story right now. Top Republicans continuing to pour in and out of Trump Tower as the president-elect looks to shape his cabinet.
This morning, one of the top White House jobs said to be offered to retired General Michael Flynn.
For more on that, let's turn to our own Commander-in-Chief, James Rosen, live in Washington this morning. Good morning, James.
Thank you for that promotion, Ed, and good morning to you, Steve and Ainsley. If Mike Flynn accepts the job of White House National Security Advisor, as multiple sources have confirmed he has been offered, it will mark an amazing turnaround for the man who was the most senior uniformed military intelligence officer in the United States. And Army Lieutenant General Flynn served as director of the Defense Intelligence Agency from 2012 to 2014, but he never received a single audience with the commander-in-chief in that time, and he later wrote in his book, The Field of Fight, that he was fired from DIA because his assessments of the threat from ISIS and radical Islam clashed with the more optimistic view the White House wanted to project. And amid reports that 2012 Republican nominee Mitt Romney is under consideration to serve as Secretary of State, sources have confirmed that he will meet with President-elect Trump at Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey this weekend. During the primaries, you may recall, Romney called Mr. Trump a phony, a fraud, playing the American public for suckers. And you may recall Mr. Trump responded at that time by calling Governor Romney a choke artist and failed candidate.
As president-elect, he knows it's incumbent upon him to take meetings with any number of people over the phone and in person, from world leaders to sitting legislators and opinion leaders to those, like in the case of Governor Romney, have been through the political fire before, and to really talk about what they've learned together about America, what the party represents, what the country is asking for in terms of leadership.
And what Ms. Conway calls a Thank America tour may soon be coming to a battleground state near you. The advance director for the Trump campaign told reporters yesterday that the president-elect is planning to visit and maybe hold his trademark huge rallies in states that he won, including battleground states he flipped from the Obama-Biden ticket in 2012 to the Trump-Pence ticket this year. Now, for those of you out there watching who require to get you going in the morning, not just eggs and coffee, but some deeply satisfying and richly aromatic political trivia.
Yeah.
Follow me on Twitter at James Rosen FNC.
Here we go.
And right after I get off this set, I'll tell you how many of the counties across America that voted twice for Barack Obama flipped and voted for Donald Trump this time around.
I bet it's a big number. That's all I'm going to say.
It may
Remember the map of
surprise
all
you.
the counties? It was like totally red.
All right. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
So James was just talking about how Mitt Romney's going to go to Bedminster, New Jersey, which is where Donald Trump has his fancy golf course. He could be up for Secretary of State. Some of the other names for Secretary of State this morning: Nikki Haley, who we talked about yesterday, General David Petraeus. You know, Rudy had been mentioned as a contender, but Ed, you brought up a good point. He's got some confirmation problems because since he left the City Hall, he's had a lot of business dealings.
Right, and it was interesting that when we asked Sean Spicer about that last hour,
foreign business dealings.
Yeah, he seemed to suggest, he didn't confirm it either way, of course, he was being careful, but he seemed to suggest, look, it doesn't matter whether Giuliani's in the cabinet or not. He's going to be a whisperer to the president, going to be a key advisor. And look, that's what's going on with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. He might have had confirmation problems as well. He left the Obama administration under a little bit of controversy.
He got
fighting
fired.
with President Obama, right? So Democrats would have wanted a pound of flesh and might have tried to block that nomination. Not might have, probably would have tried hard. So you make him the national security advisor. There's no Senate confirmation. And I think this whole concept of a team of rivals, think about Barack Obama doing that in 2008, bringing in Hillary Clinton. We asked Sean Spicer about what's going on here. Mitt Romney, Ted Cruz maybe as Attorney General. Here's how he put all of this.
More than what they realize, it's what Donald Trump realizes. And it's his attitude and his vision to say, if you want to get on board to enact an agenda that will move this country forward and have real change, I'll take you. And I don't care where you were prior to this, whether you supported me or not. If you're the best person, if you've got a great idea, I want to hear it. I want you part of the team.
He's not holding a grudge.
Look, his actions speak louder than his words, right? I mean, he is bringing people from national security, foreign policy, economic policy. He laid out his views in the campaign: immigration, job creation, national security. And the people he's surrounding himself are the best and the brightest.
He's saying it's more important to get it right for you and for America than it is, you know, he's putting aside differences. These were guys on the campaign trail, Mitt Romney, you had Ted Cruz, who didn't support him. Obviously, he was running against Ted Cruz.
Even at the convention, it was pretty high profile.
Right.
Cruz was booed over that.
Right, so he's putting those differences aside. We've seen him do that, though. In the past. So.
We asked you for your comments, and we got plenty of them.
That's right. Chuck emailed us. He said, President-elect Trump meeting Mitt Romney doesn't surprise me. He's trying to do what's right for the country.
And Allison tweeted, two men that had such issues making peace. take note, protesters.
And Bill emailed us, Trump is considering many of his former rivals slash critics because he wants the best people in his administration and for the country. How's that for temperament?
Then Alice tweeted us, don't trust Romney. He wasn't on your side. Some people feel that way.
And that's interesting. He may just be pulling Mitt Romney in to try to make peace. It doesn't necessarily mean he'll be Secretary of State or anything like that.
So, you know, we've been speculating about who might wind up with these jobs. All we know is that a lot of people have gone into Trump Tower. We don't know exactly what happens there. We presume they go up to his floor and they sit behind the table and they talk to him, their ideas and where they might fit in. But apparently, and Sean Spicer talked a little bit about this, they've got something that they refer to as buckets of landing teams for the broad areas of the administration.
Going into the Obama administration and figuring out how do we make this work?
Are they buckets or baskets? Baskets of deplorables.
Oh, wow.
Now it's bucket time. They've got the bucket list. And on the list, national security, the economy, and domestic policy. And that's why they rolled out Flynn's name, because they're talking about national security.
All right, let's roll the soundbite so I can get some water.
All right.
There are three landing teams, if you will. Today, the National Security Landing Team, which is Department of State, Department of Defense, the National Security Committee, and the Department of Justice launch. What that means is individuals designated by President-elect Trump will go meet with people designated by the White House in those respective departments and agencies. And they will begin to talk about the transition that will occur in January, what jobs need to be filled, how they get filled, what forms, everything down to the minutia to the big agenda type of things. And they will work on behalf of the Trump team to make sure that they have a successful transition. And then, as you mentioned, on Monday, we start going to economics and then domestic policy and all the agencies.
So what does that mean? They're talking about a national security transition today. We're hearing rumblings there'll be some sort of announcement, maybe Lieutenant General Michael Flynn.
Yeah, for the first one, for national security. So that would match up with
national security. Then you got the economy on Monday.
Economy would be Mitt Romney, maybe, and then domestic policy. Who would you think would be good for that? Because domestic policy would include veteran affairs and health and human services.
And those names would arrive on Wednesday, and the people whose names are going to be attached to it are not necessarily the people who are going to be in the administration.
Right.
These are just the landing teams.
Right. You've seen Ben Carson say, I don't want to be in the cabinet, but I want to be a key advisor on health care. He could be part of domestic policy on Wednesday, but not have a nomination.
So transition team, now it's called landing team.
All right.
The landing team.
And Sean Spicer suggested he may be interested in the White House press secretary job as well. He certainly didn't run away from
Curious
that.
to find out, because Laura Ingram's name's been thrown out there.
Should be very strong as well.
All right. So anyway, a lot to talk about on this Friday. He's going to meet with Mitt Romney tomorrow. We'll tell you more a little later on. In the meantime, at 7:10 in the morning, it's news time.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're off to a great day on a happy Friday. We begin right now with a Fox News alert and overseas to bring you. A man has set himself on fire inside a bank. Police in Australia now investigating this as a possible case of terrorism. 6 people, including that suspect, taken to the hospital with severe burns. Officials say the suspect had a container of accelerant on him and that exploded. It's not clear yet if he intended to set himself on fire or not, but we'll continue to monitor the situation. President Obama spent more than 8 years arguing for the benefit of big government. Now he's saying something that is quite different. Moments ago, while on his last foreign trip, he's in Germany, he said that Americans want more control over their lives. Take a listen to this.
I do think that all politicians today have to be more attentive to people wanting to be heard, wanting to have more control over their lives.
Well, he also talked about Donald Trump's plan to reform Obamacare, saying, quote, campaigning and governing are two different things. We'll keep watching this one. President-elect Trump taking credit for thousands of jobs staying in the United States. And this now comes as Ford confirms that one of its production lines will not be moving to Mexico, choosing to keep making their Lincoln MKC in Louisville, Kentucky. Mr. Trump tweeting, quote, I worked hard with Bill Ford to keep the Lincoln plant in Kentucky. I owed it to the great state of Kentucky for their confidence in me. Ford saying it's happy Mr. Trump is pursuing policies to keep production in the United States. And that's a great car, by the way. Congratulations all the way around. Well, just moments ago, the search for the missing son of a Democratic congressman now coming to an end. 21-year-old Carl Conyers found safe overnight after he vanished 3 days ago. Police were able to track down his location after he liked a post on Twitter early this morning. The son of the Michigan...
Lines 24/7, Channel 115.
And a Fox News alert, CBS News now reporting Senator Jeff Sessions was offered the job of Attorney General. And joining us live is someone involved in the transition for Donald Trump, Brad Blakeman. He's an advisor to the President-elect's transition team, former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush. Good morning to you. Not a surprise that Jeff Sessions is in the running for something big. I mean, this is a senator who put his neck out there and, as I recall, was the first lawmaker to say, look, I'm behind Donald Trump. He's going to get something big, isn't he?
Well, look, if this is true, the president-elect couldn't pick a better candidate. This is a guy who is steeped in the law, got an excellent reputation, was appointed by Ronald Reagan in 1981 to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Alabama, served for more than a decade, then became the Attorney General thereafter of Alabama, and then the U.S. Senator. So he's got a stellar record. I believe if he were to become the Attorney General, he would be just what the doctor ordered, to not only clean up that agency, but to effectuate all the laws in this country to the best of his ability.
Brad, as a Republican, you know better than anyone, and having been inside the White House, you also know better than many that Republicans have been very frustrated about the Eric Holder Justice Department before Loretta Lynch, and particularly the Clinton investigation. How do you think the face of the Justice Department will change? And do you think that Jeff Sessions would be somebody, if confirmed, who would reopen the Clinton probe?
He is going to clean up the Justice Department. He's going to take politics out of the Justice Department. He's going to uphold all the laws and not pick and choose those laws that he seeks to enforce. And that's going to be the big difference. The rule of law is for everybody. You can't pick and choose in America the laws you seek to want to enforce. If you want fair and equitable justice, it's got to be fair for everyone.
Let's move on to Mitt Romney, because he's going to be meeting one-on-one with the president-elect tomorrow here right near New York City in New Jersey at Donald Trump's golf course. And I wonder what you think about bringing someone like him in. The way I'm hearing it from a transition official is that it's unlikely Mitt Romney is going to get a major nomination. Instead, this is about trying to mend fences and bring a former rival into the fold. What do you think about that?
Look, Donald Trump is true to his word. He wants to unite not only the party, but the country. If we're going to make America great again, we need everybody in order to join in that effort. And, you know, the greatness of President Lincoln was he brought his rivals together. He didn't seek to keep them out. And the success is the diversity that you can bring to government. Because once you're able to talk things out and come to consensus, you make the best decisions.
Now, Brad, talk also, having been in the Bush White House, about the balancing act with Senate confirmation, some of the nomination battles to come, because any president is not going to get everything they want. So Jeff Sessions may be in as Attorney General. We had heard Rudy Giuliani's name bandied about early on. Now, obviously, that doesn't appear to be the case. Also, Giuliani talked about for Secretary of State, but there may be confirmation problems because of some of his business ties. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, rather than getting a nomination where Senate Democrats could block it, being appointed to a White House position, it appears, as National Security Advisor. What's the balancing act going on within the Trump transition right now?
The balancing act is to get the best and the brightest who are willing to serve, and then to Sherpa them through the process of Senate confirmation. The president is entitled to nominate those people that he believes he has the trust and the confidence in, and it's the Senate's job then, as a check and balance, to make sure that they are fit for service. And I think everybody's going to get a fair shake that Donald Trump submits to Congress, because the Senate knows that those people have been properly vetted.
Brad Blakeman, we appreciate your insights this morning. We look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you.
And coming up, while people like Colin Kaepernick trash the national anthem, there are other athletes who are doing precisely the opposite. And what they're doing is taking the country by storm. We'll talk about that next. And Ainsley's brand new book, already a bestseller, and her success is good news for veterans' families. The founder of Major Dan Rooney, a fighter pilot, here live to explain.
the other side of war. And that night I watched the family on the darkest night of their lives, his brothers, his sisters, but his 4-year-old son. And he watched his father's American flag draped coffin inch down the cargo ramp. And in that moment, as a father, you realize the finality